But just to come back to a point you made earlier, just talking about innovation, that's the sort of thing that people can take quite a formulaic approach to, whereas actually it's quite an organic, creative thing. What do you see as the kind of, what are the barriers within organizations at the moment to accessing innovation within supply chain? Because we're always hearing that people are really excited and really interested in bringing more innovation into their business. But what do you think might be stopping some companies from achieving that?
So I think the main problem that companies have when trying to talk about innovation, encourage innovation from their suppliers, is that the procurement teams and the suppliers don't have, the same word again, that don't have the right relationship. So if I look back at the places I've worked and the clients I've had, if I'm honest, I haven't really seen this done very well, generally speaking. And I think it's because people get, if you think about a set of objectives that a procurement team might have for the year, there'll be all the normal ones, cost reduction and payment terms, and then there'll be things about sustainability, and there'll be things about numbers of suppliers and all the kind of usual suspects. And then increasingly there'll be something in there around innovation, and that'll kind of get rolled out, in my experience, to everybody. You must deliver some innovation within your category this year. Okay, great. The problem with that approach is it's bonkers because you can't expect every category to have innovation. You can only really expect innovation to come where, if you think about the typical sort of CrowdJick portfolio structure for categories, where you've got high risk and high spend, and where you've got sort of in the strategic box, that is where you can expect to find innovation. You cannot expect a supplier who's in a leverage box, so there's loads of competition, they're being really hit on price. You can't go through a really aggressive meeting with one of those suppliers and then at the end of it say, right, let's talk about innovation. It just doesn't work. It's madness to think that you could.
Well, the supplier's going to be sitting there feeling crushed and thinking, well, if I got some great innovation, I don't feel very inclined to share it with you because, what's in it for me, kind of thing.
Exactly. You've just told me, unless I reduce my prices by 30% in a week's time, I'm going to lose this business that we've had for 20 years. And now you want me to open all my vaults of my innovation and share them with you. Well, I don't feel like doing that. I don't feel particularly trusted right now. So it comes down to trust. So that's the first thing. I think the relationship's got to be right. I think you can't have an adversarial relationship and expect innovation to fall. Now, what I'm not saying is that all relationships, can't be adversarial. I'm just saying that where you've got a category that sits nicely in a leverage box, and that I'm not saying that's the wrong place to put it. I'm just saying don't expect innovation to fall out of those suppliers. I think having the same objective for every category is bonkers. I think you've got to pick innovation in the logical places that it will flow from, and that's where the relationship is much more aligned to partnership and trust and sort of openness, genuine, not just lip service. So that's the first thing. Second thing follows on from that. Really, it's about, I think it's got to be a two-way thing. So I don't think you can, as a buyer, you can say to your supplier, tell me about all your innovation and I'm going to write it all down and we're going to take it and we're going to figure out a way that's going to make us money. I think, in order to have that relationship that I've just talked about, it's two-way. So therefore the conversation around innovation should be two-way as well. So, I think the buyer should be coming to the supplier with innovation ideas. Maybe they've got something that they're doing in their business that the supplier might benefit from. Maybe there's things that they can work on together. I don't think it all has to be a present that's given to the buyer on a plate, wrapped up in a bow. something that it probably can be co-designed.
It makes sense that it has to
should
be. Yeah, it makes sense that it has to be a collaborative process, really. But just picking up on one of the points you mentioned there about saying in the strategic box, where it might be high spend and high risk, that's where innovation would come from. So one of the questions that raises in my mind is, how does that work for the smaller suppliers? Because that's likely to be a tougher area for them to get into in many companies. And yet I would say there's potential that there's disproportionately more innovation that can be taken from those really agile small suppliers that have to work so hard to be in the game. They're growing. Do you think that's maybe possibly a bit of a problem as well?
Yeah, I think it's a great point. I think when I'm talking about high spend, high risk, I'm talking about the category, really.
Yeah.
Now, I think it's really important for innovation and for sustainability and for all sorts of reasons, for continuity of supply. I think it's really important to make sure that it's not just really big companies that you have in that box. There's no reason really why a high category supply, a high a strategic category can't be supplied by a smaller supplier or a number of small suppliers, or even a mixture between big suppliers and small suppliers. I think the days where you have sole supply, there's still a place for it, but arguably not in that box. I think those days are gone, and I think sometimes what you've got to do if a supplier's in that box because the risk is high, then one of the ways of reducing that risk is by developing more of a market, more alternatives, and sometimes you have to take a bit of a leap of faith with some smaller suppliers in order to help them along that journey, so that in the future actually that category will be less risky because there are more supply options out there. So I think it's really important actually to not just assume that innovation is the playground of the big players. I mean, obviously for things that are technology based and require lots of investment could well be more naturally aligned to big suppliers, but I don't think it has to be the case.